morning, and thank you, Chair Cantwell, Ranking Member Cruz, and committee members for including the passenger perspective in this important hearing on airline operations and consumer protections. My name is Paul Hudson. I'm here today as president of FlyersRights, the largest airline passenger advocacy organization. The Southwest Airlines Christmas meltdown, as you know, resulted in 16,700 canceled flights. It impacted directly over 2 million passengers and many more indirectly. It was unprecedented, but not unexpected. Southwest, as well as other airlines, have had past meltdowns due to obsolete technology, lack of reserves of personnel and equipment, lack of stress testing, and unrealistic and deceptive scheduling. The Southwest debacle caused many tens of thousands to be stranded overnight or even for days. They missed important events such as weddings, funerals, holiday gatherings and vacations, work obligations, and even needed medical care. Not to mention the mountains of luggage delayed or lost. Southwest shut down its customer service and could not even communicate with its own employees. The loss to passengers and the economy, which depends on air travel, is well into the billions. Passengers were unable to talk to any airport representative in person, on the phone, or online. All this occurred while other airlines had empty seats. Because U.S. airlines are not required to pay delay compensation for domestic flights, unlike for international air travel, Southwest avoided over $500 million in delay expenses. Under the current system, airlines are actually incentivized to provide bad service. Good service costs money, and bad service saves money. And that money can be used for dividends, stock buybacks, and executive compensation. Southwest proudly chose to be the first airline to restore dividends, paying $428 million in dividends to shareholders in December. Bad press, investigations, low to no fines has not caused it to update its operations. Southwest canceled or delayed half its flights over a few days in June of 21, 1,800 flights in one weekend in October of 21. Most airline operational problems are predictable and preventable. In June, FlyersRights sent an urgent letter to Secretary Buttigieg with 17 policy proposals, but to our knowledge, nearly none has been acted on. I would urge this committee to take decisive action to revisit the Airline Deregulation Act of 1978. I last recall testifying before this committee shortly after 9/11. This committee then forged a bipartisan consensus. In a matter of weeks, it persuaded a reluctant House majority and president to enact structural reform in aviation security. There has not been a successful aviation bombing or hijacking since. You have the power, and you should have the motivation to take decisive action to overcome the present crises in air travel operations and consumer protection. Thank you again for the opportunity. I look forward to your questions and to hear the ideas of members and other witnesses.
We feel like the FAA needs a lot more technical workforce to keep pace with the level of innovation, but I'm sure my members for both sides will show up and say that, their economies are constrained by lack of pilots. I have an airport in my state, Wenatchee, where people are telling them, well, we can only have one flight a day because we don't have enough pilots. We can't have rural economies basically be stranglehold because we don't have enough pilots. So we need to figure this out. So anybody who has a thought on where we need to go in building capacity.
Thank you, Senator, for that question. We think that there are a number of things that could be used to take care of that problem. Right now, the airlines set their own requirements for reserve capacity, whether it's personnel or equipment. There are no minimum standards set by the government. So we think that there needs to be some minimum standard for that, because the way it is now, some airlines are actually operating on negative reserves. So in a perfect day, they cancel at least 1 to up to 3 or 4% of their flights. That saves them money. And as I indicated in my earlier testimony, we need to change the financial incentives from offering bad service that's profitable, and in this case, unreliability or unsafe, to service that is good for the system and good for the consumer.
Is there anything right now that any of you would say, hey, make sure you're getting on this and watching it before something bad happens? None of which we don't want anything bad to happen.
Yes, Mr. Hudson.
Some things that we've suggested in the past would be to involve NASA, not just the FAA, in what's been called Next Gen, which has been delayed or has gone through maybe 5 iterations. Secondly, that we need stress tests on the computer systems, both the scheduling and the safety. We don't have that right now. And we would agree somewhat with the doctor here that we should consider standing up a new agency for air travel regulation and taking the safety aspects from the FAA and the economic regulation in transportation office of the secretary, which is really there by historical accident, and put them into a new agency that will really be focused on safety as well as good regulation.